Welcome to the Mason Duchatschek Show, where we deep dive into the minds of industry leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs to uncover the strategies that drive success. Today, we're stepping into a world that blends passion, art, and business, the music industry. My guest is Ryan Patrick, lead guitarist and co-founder of the rock band Otherwise. Over the past 20 years, Otherwise has made waves in the rock world, releasing 6 full-length albums, touring relentlessly, and evolving alongside a rapidly changing industry. Originally signed by Sony Records, they've now taken complete control of their destiny as an independent band, navigating the complex world of the music business on their own terms. Full disclosure, I'm a huge fan of this band. Their lyrics are meaningful, their music is powerful, and their live shows are the kind of passionate and engaging performances that allow you to feel the raw emotions that their music was made with. If you've seen these guys live, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you will. In today's conversation, we'll discuss what the music industry used to be like, how it's changed, and how Otherwise has adapted to survive and thrive. We'll explore the business lessons that Ryan has learned along the way, the stories behind their biggest challenges and victories, and the parallels between the music world and entrepreneurship. I couldn't be more excited for this conversation, whether you're a business owner, a leader, or just someone who appreciates resilience and reinvention. This is episode's for you. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Mason, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. I'm excited. So take us back to the beginning. What was the music industry like when Otherwise was first getting started?
Yeah, so my brother, Adrian, my older brother and lead singer, Adrian, he didn't want to work a 9 to 5, and he wanted to get girls, and he wanted to have a good time. And he was an incredible writer. And our family had a pretty decent musical background. Our father was a great poet, beautiful voice. Our mother was a piano player, beautiful voice. And we're just a very passionate family. And my brother started singing, started playing guitar. Our grandmother passed away, and he picked up the guitar and he wrote a song. The first song he ever wrote was actually ended up being one of our fan favorite songs, a song called Heaven off of our True Love Never Dies debut album. It was the first song he ever wrote, and to this day, it's one of the most requested, deepest cutting songs we've ever had. So clearly, there was something in the proof with my brother writing music, and I was there's almost a decade between the two of us, so I was in a little bit of a different generation, and I would sit in our parents' garage while the band was practicing, and he was trying to put it together with his friends, and every single day. Practice. I would sit in there, 10, 11, 12 years old. He said, "Hey, little brother, when you go through puberty, you can be in the band too." So, that was essentially the start. I waited. I went to a music high school here in town called the Las Vegas Academy of Performing Arts. I got in for the guitar program, and I eventually went through puberty. And a week before my 16th birthday,
he kept his word.
He kept his word. Yeah, our word is our bond, and he kept his word. And I went to this amazing guitar program, and it helped me elevate. And even though I was a young guy, the baby in the band, because I was able to have a guitar in my hand every single day at school, my playing really elevated. My musicianship really elevated. So I brought a lot to the table. I made the band a lot more serious once I joined. And so we were just grinding away and cutting our teeth in the Vegas music scene for years. We like to say that we're born and bled in Las Vegas, Nevada. We did that for a very long time. We were the big unsigned band. When national bands would come to town, promoters would book Otherwise so that there was a bunch of people at the show. We had bands like Imagine Dragons opening for us at one time. And, great band, great guys. And, that it just goes to show how long we've been around doing our thing. And we signed a record deal and started touring, and we did that for the last 10, 12 years. And, just recently, our band, our emblem is a phoenix. So, before we even really realized the true symbolism of a phoenix, and what we'd have to go through to really represent our own emblem and what we stood by. Man, the phoenix goes through a lot of cycles of death and rebirth and emergence. And to catch you up to modern day times here, real time with the band, our Phoenix burnt down to the ground. The ashes of that touring, signed, management, agent, that whole business process, that whole model we burnt it to the ground. And from there, now this new Phoenix is rising of our independent careers. And it's pretty exciting. It really is exciting.
A lot of business owners talk about how much competition they have for offering their products and services and things like that. And I look at your band, like I said, I'm full disclosure, I'm a huge fan, but lyrically and musically, you guys are as good as anybody and far, far better than most. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke. I don't know who it was, but someone said that, how did they say it? Music is what emotions sound like or feelings sound like. And that's true. And when I listen to some of your songs, there are different songs out there that if I want to get all pumped up and in an excited, motivated mood, I put in Coming for the Throne, and you feel like you can walk through walls. When I was growing up in high school, that was Eye of the Tiger was that song.
Yeah.
Now, a song like Coming for the Throne makes me feel invincible. Lyrics are spectacular. There are songs in there for obviously getting over a failed relationship. Yeah. Songs like Silence Reigns or another motivational one, Coffins or Failure. Those songs, you guys put the effort in to. I know there are bands that write catchy tunes that their lyrics are so shallow and superficial and non-meaningful. You guys are not that. So when I know musically you can hang with anybody, lyrically far better than most, in my humble opinion, but far better than most.
Yeah, thank you, Mason. We really put a lot of effort in. We put a lot of effort in. We do, and we've played with some of the biggest bands in the world.
What's the largest crowd you've ever played in front of?
In Kansas City, we played to 50,000 people, maybe.
Was that Rockfest?
Yeah.
Okay, I might have been at that one.
Yeah, I think it was 2015 Rockfest. We've played some really cool festivals. We've played some cool arena shows, and we've really had some wonderful opportunities.
So so you are a business, obviously art and music is your business, but how do you compete against in a very, very crowded field? Well, how do you stand out? What type of things can you do or do you do to stand out? Business owners everywhere have competition, same as you, and they may feel they offer superior products or services. I feel your music is superior to a lot of bands that are doing well. What conscientious choices do you make to separate yourself from other bands?
It's a great question. It's tough to answer that question authentically, especially when you're signed to a record label, you have a manager, you have a lawyer, you have an agent. They all expect certain things from you. Even when you have certain band members in the band that bring certain aspects to the project, there's just this expectation. There's always, this band's doing great. Sound like them. Do what they're doing. This group is doing awesome. But that band wasn't thinking about anybody else. They were just doing their thing, or maybe they were taking certain pieces. And there are some very strategic brands, I should say, bands that have brands that are, my brother and I, for the longest time, we didn't have that. We didn't have that. Okay, we're going to be this way. We're going to wear costumes on stage. We're going to wear makeup. We're going to sound a certain way. We're going to write these songs that exemplify this character and this concept. No, man, we're just rocking out. We're just writing our music and writing it from the soul and living it. The guys you see on stage are the guys you see off stage. But that actually has somewhat of a downfall to when you're not selling as much as you could be selling. It is the music business. So there is this balance of now, after years and years, I think that being authentic and happy as far as, hey, this is what we're creating, this is what we're doing, we're going to do it regardless. We're going to do it regardless of it, if it's successful or it's, working in the industry or charting on the, radio charts. We're just going to do what feels right. Because for the longest time, it was, we've got to go that we've got to catch on over here, or you guys want us to sound this way. We need to be heavier. We've always had this, we are too soft for metal and too hard for, alternative pop. Sure. So we're just this it, and it's perfect because the name otherwise is other than supposed. That is the definition of the name, and we're a little bit of everything. And that when you're a manager, I've tried to put myself in my manager's shoes when I've had them, and I can see how the band's frustrated. You got two wild brothers that are very passionate and you don't listen. We have trust issues. We have some definite trust issues that the industry has helped us, build. And so when guys are like, you need to do this, you need to do that, be this way, you've got to take this tour for this much money because it's going to do. I'm like, no, dude, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing any of that. So to stay authentic is just going with your gut, going with your intuition, and pushing forward. There were a lot of times where, man, it seemed really bleak, where, man, the future, what are we going to do? Should we just stop? This is not working. This business model where we're taking the tours, you've seen us in big crowds, and then you've seen us where you're one of the only people in the venue. And, I think we've played the same show regardless, but that takes a lot out, that takes a lot out of the magic. A great word for it is disenchantment takes place. And we're not doing that anymore, where we're listening to other people. At least we will die by our own sword and go out on our shield. And it feels good to know that it's all in our hands now. So that's
a very encouraging message because the folks that are listening to this show and this podcast are typically people who own businesses, lead businesses, manage businesses, or departments and people. And I know that they struggle with a lot of the same things that you're talking about. They sit in their boardroom meetings like, well, this company's doing that and our competitor is doing that and this thing. And how do we adapt? And should we do this? And should we do that? And this consultant says this, and this news article says that, and this Inc. magazine article says this. And they're going through the same struggles in their different niche of business. Let me take a step back. When you signed with Sony, what were some of the biggest perks and challenges of being on a major label? What was it like before, and what are the differences after?
So So we signed with Century Media Records, which was upsold to Sony. When we signed to Century, man, we had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea what we were signing. We were going through probably the most challenging time in our lives. Our cousin had just passed away, our cousin Ivan Patrick, who means the world to us. Right on my studio desk, I have a picture of my cousin Ivan Patrick and I as a baby. And he was our brother, my brother and I. And he died like 6 weeks before we signed our record deal. And he was a drummer, and we were the three rock and roll musketeers of the family. So I bring that up because you can imagine where our heads were. Now we're finally signing. We had been going after it being the big local band for a long time, and not getting a record deal and just grinding it away. And then he passes, and now we're sitting in Century Media's office signing this deal. And I remember just sitting there like, I just signed away. I didn't really know what was happening. So we went right into recording our debut record at NRG Studios in North Hollywood. The label paid for it. The label was a great bank, and labels have an amazing way of fluffing up what they can do for you before you sign, and our song Soldiers was already going number one on satellite radio when we signed. There was some great things that they paid for. They helped get us on tour, management. It just legitimized us as a band. Like, oh, we're signed now. We got to go do this. We need to go tour. We're getting all these opportunities. They sent us to radio campaign with Soldiers. And there were definitely benefits there at the time, especially around 2011, 2012. We grew up, we were used to the record deals that you would get $1 million signing bonuses, and you sign a record deal and man, you made it. But the record deal that we signed at the time that we signed it, man, that was just the start. It was just practically, I can maybe refer to getting on the practice squad in the NFL, or, it was just, okay, now it starts. But what we didn't realize is that we were signing over our publishing, we signed over our publishing, which was really unfortunate, honestly. Spent a lot of years accepting the fact that hey, okay, this is what it included. I was 22 years old when we signed. My brother was 29, 30. We didn't know again. And we were going through this really rough patch. And we didn't know what we were signing. We're just like, all right, we've been waiting this long. Might as well sign the deal. And we did. There was a really great things. And I'm at a point now in my life, Mason, where I realize all the losses that we had and all the fumbles that took place they're just amazing learning experiences for us to say that, hey, we've been through it. And it applies all these losses that we've had with the band. They just help me legitimize our nonprofit, our music outreach, and how we teach and share our experiences. I would probably, if you asked, would you do it over again? Yes, I think we would, but we would just hold on to our publishing or work the deal out a little differently. We didn't realize how much leverage that we could have had. How much leverage was there.
How specifically, can you give me some examples for myself and others who may not understand the music business? I mean, help me understand, what are the kind of ways the bands make money, and how has that changed over the years? How do the revenue streams and expenses of the business compare and contrast today to what they were like back in the early days?
Well, one way that bands, especially when we signed, one way that bands make money is, when you sign your deal, when you sign your music away, your music just becomes a marketing tool and that someone else owns. So, and they put the money behind. So you take that marketing tool and then you go and you sell merchandise on the road, and you get on the road and you try to build up this following to where you can get higher guarantees when you go on tour. So ticket sales and merchandise is really the big selling point for a band, especially when you sign, like we did, you sign all your rights away. Back in the day, like I mentioned, that was okay to sign your rights away because you were getting a major fat signing bonus. You could go and buy your parents a house and buy some cool shoes and a car and take your girl out to a nice dinner, and then you felt like a rock star. In our case, our signing bonus was not that much. It went towards, a vehicle, and we just that barely went towards a vehicle. I remember our drummer at the time was taking out, he was the one with good credit, and he took out a loan to get the van, so we could get stuff going. But that, things have changed now where, man, if you can kick up your social media and become a content star, you're making crazy money as an artist these days, Merchandise and touring is still a big option for, hey, this is how this artist can make money. Go get on the road.
I mean, that's how I got exposed to you guys first. I saw you guys perform live, and the authenticity of that performance and the raw energy and emotion. Like, you guys didn't go through the motions. That was an authentic, all out energy rush. I loved it. And that's what got me introduced to your music. And, to be able to do that every single night's got to be tough. That's why I asked the question about how has the music business changed? Because, I mean, I remember as a kid buying CDs and even cassette tapes, and now everything's digital. And I guess that makes it harder to make money if everything's digital versus the old cassette tapes and stuff and CDs. But how is AI? Is AI a threat, or is AI an asset, or a little bit of both, and how?
That's a great question. Another great question, Mason. I love it because this is real time. There's a part of me that just wants to stay away from AI. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Why not use AI as a tool, as a bandmate? It's not going anywhere. I haven't done the music. I'm still depending on my own talents and abilities. But man, once you open that, I don't want to call it Pandora's box, but once you open it up, it really does make things convenient. And I think there's a way to use it. Another artist mentioned it's like when rappers and hip hop and, they started sampling music. This AI is like the new form of like sampling, where you take someone else's song and use it as the beat, chop it up and make it your own. And now you have a beat, which is very prevalent in hip hop music. And some of the classics. So you're like, wait a minute, this is another artist's song from the 60s, and this is the number one smash hit of 1988 kind of thing. So I think AI, if used correctly and not too much, because like you said, One thing, I kind of started maybe on a little bit of a negative tone of, oh, the label did this and we signed this and we signed that away. Well, the flip side of that coin is that we've garnered a beautiful fan base with all those sweat and tears and blood and rock and roll over the years of just showing up to the small bars and playing the same set we would if we were playing an arena, not being unreachable to our fans and just being real. Like, hey, let us just dry off real quick and we'll be right out there to talk to you. And that's one of the positive things that we have, is that we have a tremendous fan base. So I don't know if we'd have that tremendous fan base if just everything we pump out is AI. Like, hey, AI, write us a otherwise lyrics. And I'm sure it could get close, but it's a fine balance right now with how good AI is becoming and how convenient it is for artists to utilize. But thankfully, we're at a point in our careers where I want to write music more than ever. I didn't want to write music when I was owned by the label. I didn't want to create new music when I knew, hey, no matter what I write, because of that contract I signed, you own this music. I stopped writing. I didn't want to write. I didn't want to create anymore. Now that we're free, man, my fingers are flying. I'm feeling really good about it. So I don't really want to use AI too much.
I think that goes back to your statement early on about the importance of authenticity. When you look at world-class athletes, the difference between the guy who runs the world record time in the 100-meter dash and the guy that's 2000th in the world is a fraction of a second, or a horse race, or the difference is so little at that level if you want to be world class in whatever it is that you do. And I could be wrong, but there's no substitute for your feelings. Like, I remember Bloodline Lullaby. First time I heard that song, I texted your brother and I said, what inspired that? And he said, I missed my boys.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to be all mushy and stuff, but that almost brought tears in my eyes. Because when you listen to the lyrics of that song and you think of a father who's on the road trying to provide for his children and he's missing them. And he's like, boys, when I'm singing these airwaves through the sky, that's for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, AI doesn't get that, man.
Yeah, it's true.
That's that little extra. And I want to pick up on what you said earlier about going through the challenges and struggles that you'd gone through. Tony Robbins, I'm a huge fan of his, and he always says problems happen for you, not to you. And good gets in the way of great. When things are going good, people stop trying to reach higher levels. They get satisfied and they get comfortable. So I do believe that good is the enemy of great, and that problems do happen for us, not to us. And when you talk about the things that you've gone through over the course of your career and the learning opportunities, the teachable moments, if you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, to the 18-year-old version of you, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say be patient and just keep playing. Man, that's tough. Be patient, because I know already, me hearing that as an 18-year-old, I'll be like, get out of here, man. Like, tell me to be patient. I'm going to be a rock star, and it needs to happen now. But we were so, we were frustrated. We wanted it to happen so bad. But that was also part of what got us there, is that we were obsessed with making it happen. But man, I think about how much, emotional turmoil we went through while we were so hell-bent on becoming, these rock stars. Yeah, it's such a funny word to throw around.
Well, make no mistake, you got entrepreneurs out there that feel the same way about their business.
Yeah.
They have that same passion, they have that same drive, and they want to be the best in their business. And that advice, being patient and persisting, applies to them just as well. Whether you're a rock band or whether you're an entrepreneur trying to build a business or whatever, that's relevant stuff.
Yeah. You're going to make me contemplate really on, because that 18-year-old is still inside of me, and it's like, what can I say to myself now with this, with where we're at with our careers? Because we've gone full circle, no pun intended on one of our big hits.
One of my favorites.
Nice. what would I say to that 18-year-old? I would say pick up the guitar and smile and be grateful that we're doing this. And we knew it would happen, but man, we were so frustrated when it didn't happen, how long it took. It was a lot of years go by. There's that opportunity, the showcase with so-and-so, Tom Mackay, the vice president of Universal, one of the founders of The Voice. And we do a showcase for him, and all these things come up. And then 3 years goes by. The showcase doesn't amount to anything. And then, man, we're back to those 3 years. You know how much frustration took place in the hearts and minds of my brother and I? I wish I could find the words to alleviate the frustration and the anger that came with our herd, man, because all that time, our cousin was alive. We were rocking out. It was a good time. We wasted a lot of time being angry, but then it came across music.
You adapt because you did pull it off. You did pivot. You did make changes, and you have made it through. You know what? Let's shelve that one for a while. Let that one brew. And if more ideas come to you, then we'll fill in on that one, because that one was out of the blue.
No, that's great.
Most businesses struggle with the same type of things. Like, how do I get heard? I feel like I'm screaming out into the void. I'm screaming out into the internet. I've got this great product. I've got this great service. I've got this great enthusiasm, just like you have for your music. And are there any tips or ideas or strategies that you've used or learned that you'd be willing to share about building a fan base that might apply to businesses? Because you do have a very loyal fan base. Like, I've been to the shows. I know people sing along word for word. They know your stuff, and it's anywhere you play. And that's to me the magic of going to a live event, is I can sit in a crowd of 60,000 people and listen to all of those people sing the words to the songs that you wrote, and look up on the stage and realize those people created this. This is the one person in the world that made this sound. That's the one person in the world that created these lyrics and these emotions tied to that. And I'm watching them live. And the world's a big place, and it's amazing to me. And it's why I love live music, is to watch the people who created that give and share. It's just a magical experience for me. And I sit there and I think, what if businesses had the ability to become rock stars in their industry, where their interactions with their customers felt like that? What you do is special. What tips, advice, guidance, or suggestions do you have, or stories might you share that might be helpful to someone who wants to build that kind of connection with their customer base, just like you have with your fans?
Well, I've had some great mentors in my life, and John Boyko, he's worked with us really closely, my brother and I. He recommended a long time ago to learn every aspect of the business and do everything. For a long time, I was just a guitarist. Just give me a guitar, plug me in. Then I'll make magic. That's it. And that was great. That's great. And I had that capability. But there's so much more to make it all work. And I'm not saying I'm the lyricist and learn drums and take over everything, but okay, learn how to produce, learn how to market, get on the emails, go out into the crowd and meet the people, and then follow up with them on social media. Learn how to produce ideas to a certain level that can get across to your band. Learn how to negotiate your concepts and your ideas. For a long time, we're just so passionate, and no, it's just what we feel. So this is why. And well, maybe if you take a little bit of time and organize your thoughts, realize that it does take a village to make it work. And for a long time, my brother and I were just like, and it is true that it's just me and him. The band might as well be called Brotherwise, but we really love being in a band with other guys too. And having that camaraderie and understanding the importance of all the roles. For other businesses, I would suggest learning all the roles, at least a piece of them, to the point where you can appreciate when other people are taking on responsibilities and not expecting them to, just because you're the visionary and just because your name is on the LLC and it's your concept and it's your brand. Well, now when we tour, and we're setting things up. We have some things coming up this year that I won't announce yet, but you can kind of maybe put two and two together. But I'm tour managing, planning it out, working with the agents, working with the venues when we're on the road, helping set up, getting everything together, doing the tech work, driving, learning all the pieces for the fact of, one, if someone isn't there, you can do it. You're not out of luck here because you can handle every aspect of your business. I mean, even to the point where, okay, if a drummer can't make a tour or a bassist can't make a tour, or God forbid my brother can't make a tour or I can't make a tour, man, we've got backups. I'm going to
piggyback on that. I'm going to piggyback on that because what you said is incredibly valuable. One of my good friends is a very, very successful entrepreneur, and he got married, and I went down to Cartagena, Colombia, a couple months ago, and he was staying at a high-end resort, and he invited me for breakfast, and we were having a conversation with the person in charge of hospitality. And my friend, being an entrepreneur, is very giving, and he sat down. He said, I'm going to help this young man. He's young in his career, and I'm going to help him. And he went down the list of questions. He said, how many nights have you stayed in your hotel as a guest? He said, how many shifts have you worked as a housekeeper? How many shifts have you worked as a server? Because what he was asking is, have you done all of these different aspects? Because then you can see where the silos are. You can see where, well, if I'm just doing this job and it's great for me, but I'm screwing the guy down the road in the other department.
Yeah.
Doesn't faze me, but it's going to affect him. But when you've experienced all of those different things, then you become much more sensitive to, hey, how can we operate better as a team? Not just how can I be better at my job in my little silo? And it's funny you talk about having backup plans and things and being able to adapt to circumstances. I know that you've toured with these guys before and you're probably friends with them, but Bobby, lead singer for Saliva, I've seen them perform in front of 35,000, 40,000 people at music festivals. And I also saw him perform solo in a cafe with maybe 20 people there. And it was in Granite City, Illinois, just outside of St. Louis. And there was snow and ice, and he was the only one that made it. The other guys, just the planes couldn't get there. Like, he literally was the only guy that made it. And that might have explained why there were 20 people sitting in the cafe place when he got there. Very intimate setting and whatnot. And he got an acoustic guitar and played and sang those songs and gave them new life. Some of my favorite songs he played in a new way. And he performed with the same passion and energy in front of 20 people that I've seen him perform in front of 35,000 people. He was amazing. And he took the time. He visited with us. He got to know, like, he's a nice guy. I liked him a lot. He was very personable, but that was a blessing. But he was a professional.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, oh, I'm on 20 people here. I played in front of 35,000. It was not that. You could not tell the difference as far as his passion and commitment and professionalism to how he performed in front of 20 people as opposed to how he performed in front of 35,000. And he was fantastic, but he didn't have his guitars there. He just did it. He put a little thing on his phone, put it up there, I guess. I don't know why, maybe, but because guitar was not his thing.
Yeah, looking at the chords and stuff, I understand. That's amazing. You bring up a great word that, going back to my 18-year-old self, there's a difference between being a rock star and being a professional. And being a professional will ensure that you're a rock star for longer.
Yeah.
And I would probably lightly suggest, to, hey, work on being a professional rocker. What does that mean? Understand what it means to be professional, not just a rock star.
That's great business advice. What does being professional mean? It means I'm going to do what I said I would do, when I said I would do it, how I said it would be done. I mean,
and then a little
extra. I'm going to show up when I'm supposed to be on time. I mean, my son, I've had conversations with him when he went away to college. Like, son, when you show up, it means if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. Period. Like, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. He runs. If your coach doesn't want to hear why you're late, coach doesn't care that there was a traffic jam or there was an accident. Well, if you left 10 minutes earlier and there's a traffic jam or there's an accident, you've got cushion time in there. So you technically show up a minute or two early. That's okay. But you need to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And I had to have that conversation with them.
Yeah. So true.
And there's a lot of managers need to have those conversations with employees too.
Yeah. I think that for a long time, we were just eating up the rock star aspect of it all, like the fans want to meet us. We're the ones that started this. And man, it was ego. And there was definitely some ego deaths that needed to take place. I suggest the ego death of, founders and entrepreneurs, like have it quick. Picture yourself at the top, of course, envision yourself at the top, but then envision when it all fails. And then envision getting that second chance to do it, and then how are you going to do it on that second chance? And we're on our third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance. But the second chance is that mentality. It's really important. And to be able to understand, sometimes you don't even have to do the jobs of the housekeeper and, the front desk person, but just to know what it's like as a leader, you then encompass gratitude for your teammates. And oh man, that's the team that's going to win. That's the project that's going to win 100%. Because I know a lot of successful bands that, man, the guys are miserable. The guys are so miserable because they're enslaved to the success of the product, but they hate each other. They don't like each other. They don't like the dynamic. There's no gratitude. There's no appreciation. There's no empathy. And at this point in my career, in our careers, I think that those are going to be the things that push us even further, and have us bring the best that we've ever been to the table, is having those qualities in our music and in our business.
I hear businesses talking about, oh, our company's like a family. We're like a family. In a lot of cases, they aren't. Sometimes they are. It varies. But in your particular case, business really is family. What are some of the things that you have found necessary to do to preserve your family relationships? Because obviously you can do different business and stuff, but family's family. And what are some of the decisions or some of the actions or some of the ways that you go about preserving the family first priority in an actual family business?
Yeah. Be prepared to let go of the business, and there's a point, there's been some highs and lows, and, there's a point where I genuinely, like, okay, I am with my brother, I'm your brother first, and there was times when I was growing up, I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm your guitar player, and that's that ego of like, that's the only thing that matters is we're rockers. And I guess he matured. I'm matured to a certain extent, and being able to say, is this really worth it? We're really killing ourselves out here, and the brink of destroying your family, the family that he's created with his wife and my two beautiful nephews. Is it worth it? Can I be okay? Could we be okay if this didn't exist? And thankfully, it didn't get us there. I don't know if that's always the case, but when I was able to really, really think about it and go, man, we're still brothers no matter what, even if the band stops. Something happened. I'd like to think it was, some divine act, or the rock gods are like, nope, you're not stopping. But being willing to understand that family is more important than the business. But by doing that, you can also see that the business is important too in that process. So
do you guys have some rules or policies, written or unwritten, that you kind of abide by that has helped preserve? Because you guys have been doing it a long time, and you guys don't hate each other. Like you talked about earlier, you've got bands out there that are making millions and filling up stadiums that can't stand each other, won't be in the same room. You and your brother, you guys are tight, and you've been doing it a long time. So whether they're written rules or unwritten rules, maybe some businesses and some bands could learn from some of the things that you're doing. What are some of the tips you might give some of those guys?
That's a tough one. My brother and I have never really written it down. There's just this unspoken bond of honor between us. And maybe it's like an old school definition of honor. And we have to give all the credit to our parents, our mom and dad. They have been through so much and stuck with each other through thick and thin. And we, as first generation Americans, our band symbolizes that freedom that our parents wanted for us. And, for us to be able to chase our dreams. So maybe there's just, it's pretty complicated.
How do you handle decisions?
Yeah. So my brother lets me make all the decisions. No, we have found a way, I handle a lot of the day-to-day business stuff, but, I always will essentially report back to my brother, and he listens. It's taken a long time. There was a lot of years of frustration.
Is it very contextual? Like business things, he might defer to you, maybe artistic things, you might defer to him. Is it contextual authority, for lack of a better explanation?
Yeah, there's a good balance of I'll take the calls, and I'll wait till it gets to a certain point, and then I'm like, okay, this is what we got going on. There's a time where I need an answer on every single thing, micromanaging, and then he's raising two boys. He has a wife that needs a lot of attention as well. His family needs a lot of attention, and I'm over here still on the band. But we've been able to, through time and through a lot of frustrating conversations. This is not easy by any means. We frustrate each other. There's times where I'm moving forward on so many different things that I forget to tell my brother. And then he's like, I didn't know that was going on. And I'm like, well, dude, you got to get involved. Like the email chain was here. So there's still hiccups 20 years in. And we don't have because we're not robots, we don't come. And I don't want to tell him every single thing that comes up until it actually becomes something. But then once it becomes something, it requires him to immediately be ready to go. So there's this balance of, I've found that, look, I'm going to reach out to you on everything. And I'm going to throw the seeds out. Hey, this is what's going on. Hey, that's what's going on. And it is showing to be the way that we need to do it. I have to make sure that, and I'm grateful though, because my brother, he has such a different outlook than I do. Sometimes it's funny. We have this going joke of there's other and there's wise. And sometimes one brother is the other with the other thought process. And then there's the wise brother. And we interchange those two. Sometimes I'll be ruminating over a certain concern in the business, and I reach out to him and say, hey, look, this. And he goes, one sentence. I'm like, perfect. That's all I needed. We're moving on. Or awesome. Let's dive in deeper. And it's great because he's the lead singer also. There was a time when I was younger and I'm like, I'm going to do everything. And I realized, man, they don't care about the guitarist. They care about the singer, and I'm like, I'm okay with that. That's awesome. Like, I'm my brother's biggest fan. I was his first biggest fan. And he brought me into this. It's great. I understand that. So it actually works when, okay, I'm looking at the business of it. I can see what it takes to, hey, we could make that tour happen. We can make this single happen. I'm watching the budgets and the accounts. If we do this show, we can maybe do that. I'm like, then I just reach out to him with almost a yes, no question. Hey, would you do this? And he get simple, boom, and we can move. And we're getting, and that's one of the, to jump into the independent part of our careers. It's so much easier to get things done because now we don't have to ask a manager's opinion. Oh, and I'm calling my brother. Well, you know what? The manager said we need to do this, so make it happen. Is that genuinely coming from me, or am I just listening? Oh, because the manager said so. Oh, because the label said so. These guys are just throwing stuff up against the wall and then moving on to the next artist. It's not true to what we need or what we want to do. Whereas now it's independent.
If you ask most entrepreneurs, of which you are, I mean, you're a musician, but you're in the business of music, what do they value most? They'll tell you it's freedom. They want freedom. One of the biggest rewards of being an entrepreneur is that you have freedom, but you also you have responsibility, but your responsibility is equivalent to authority. It's really tough to ask anybody to be responsible for an outcome, but not be given the authority to achieve that their way. And that has to provide peace for you.
It really does. It really does. It was before the peace. It was a lot of first frustration because we wanted nothing more to get out of our record deal. We wanted nothing more than to be free of other people's
And
opinions.
what are you doing differently? What are some of the biggest changes that you've put in place now that you have your freedom? Now that you have authority equivalent with your responsibility and freedom, what choices are you making differently? How are you approaching things? They're different than how you did it with the label.
Yeah, so we went through the stage of once we were free, oh, we're free, yes. And then it's quiet. The phones aren't ringing because you're not making anybody else money anymore. So they're not calling. And so there's a moment of like, oh man, it's getting real quiet. It's getting too quiet. So now it's a understanding of like, okay, we need to be a little bit more proactive, because if we're not making things happen, we thought that they weren't doing enough, but now they're really doing nothing at all. These other partners that we once had. So it makes us be far more proactive in, okay, I had this great relationship with this promoter. We had this opportunity a couple of years ago. I'm planting seeds all the time for potential opportunities. And all the time I'm doing it now. And I don't have to wait for a manager to approve it. I don't have to wait for an agent to book it. I don't have to wait for a label to allow us to release it. It's just plant the seeds now. And yeah, it definitely is very challenging. And I have a major load that is even more on my shoulders now, on top of, hey man, be inspired to write the next Coming for the Throne riff, or the next Soldier's riff, or the next melody that'll inspire my brother to get the song done. So it has definitely put a lot more weight on my shoulders. But you know what? I got strong shoulders. So
Looking ahead, what's next for Otherwise, and what are you most excited about right now?
So we actually have a re-release of a great song called Lighthouse off of our first record. We did a version of it with this amazing producer named Kevin Churko. He's one of the biggest rock metal producers in the world. He's worked with Ozzy Osbourne, Five Finger Death Punch, In This Moment, Disturbed, Papa Roach, and Otherwise. We did this back in the day, I would say the summer of 2010. We signed our record deal and they made us re-record the song. We had this version and they're like, nope, you got to redo it. Continuity with the album, this, that. You don't want the long story short, didn't get to go on the record. But now we're at a position in our careers where we get to release the music that we always wanted to release. And so we have Lighthouse, the Churko sessions, coming out on March 8th, 2025. It's very exciting for us. We love this version of the song. Kevin updated the mix and just it slams. So it's very exciting. We have some other really exciting things coming up too that I can't. It's not that I can't, because we are the bosses now. I love you, Mason, but I won't announce it just yet.
That's
because,
all right.
The marketing, understanding. Hey,
It's the cliffhanger at the end of the movie that keeps you coming back. I totally get it. Good move on your part. You did learn something from your management team before you went on your own. Good for you.
We learned so much, and we do have some cool things coming up though. And honestly, we were quiet for a minute. We were really quiet. Like last year, really the Phoenix burnt down, and those ashes, the Phoenix burns down. I was thinking, okay, the bird just flies right out of those embers. those embers get real comfy, and they're just, you're like, man, this is dusty. Okay, let's clean the place up. And it just organically, to know that the passion is still there, and that passion for the music is what has the Phoenix bird flying again. Not to be too esoteric, but hey, what can I say? We're artists and we're writers. So
well, I know what I can get you to talk about that you won't leave me on a cliffhanger for, because I know it's something you're truly passionate about. Tell me a little bit about your Life by Music charity.
Sure.
Because I know that excites you. Tell us about that.
You've given us so much lifeblood, Mason. It's tough because before we get into that, you ask like, well, what do you suggest to artists and young artists? Life by Music has saved the band. The band and our path, our Life by Music, created this entity, which started off as a motto, but then turned into a 501c3. Life by Music was just a saying. Life by Music, we're going to sign a record deal. Life by Music, we're going to be on the radio. hashtag life by music. We're rock and rollers till the end. And then we realized, hey, we want to do more with our music. We don't want to just play the shows and sit on the bus all day long. And we're in these towns and these markets where there's a lot of despair. And we were just, man, we want to do something more with this stuff. Like, what can we do? Well, we have this motto and we have this saying, and we want to fire up our fans and get a positive movement going. That was really the seeds that were planted to, okay, you guys created some shirts and you created some instrumental music and you want to focus on the positive aspect, LBM. Why don't you turn this into a 501c3? And so, wow, all right, let's do that. A nonprofit, a charity. That sounds altruistic. That sounds amazing. That sounds like good karma. Let's do it. And so Life by Music has grown so much. I'm so thankful to be the executive director of the organization. We've gotten grants from the county. We've gotten grants from casinos in Las Vegas, big energy companies. We do fundraising events every year. I mean, you sponsored our events multiple years. Workforce Alchemy.
Tell people what you do with this. Like, don't be shy about this. I think what you're doing is amazing. That's why I contribute to it. It's why I support you. Tell people, like, you should be super proud of this. Like, you're making a very positive impact in lots of ways. Tell people what you do. I think they'll love it.
So Life by Music went from the motto and we turned it into, we get instruments, musical resources, and scholarships to at-risk youth, teens, and now veterans. So we put on these customized music education programs. It's really based with music education, teaching music, doing it in a cool way, doing it in a way that shows the collaboration and the magic of music, working with each other, feeling the vibrations of an instrument. You've never played a guitar. I get you to play a guitar in 1 minute. It doesn't matter who you are, and that's one of our strengths is that we can connect how we were with our fans. Now we're with all the kids that we go and teach, and we set up these programs. We created booklets, the guitar magic booklet, ukulele magic booklet, where each chord, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, has a corresponding animal and a virtue attached to it. So we have this music and coloring book that we take to young kids, and we'll sit with them. We'll teach them the chords. We'll show them the animals. We'll read them the poems that are the attitude alligator, having a good attitude, bravery, being strong, compassionate, the bravery bear, the compassionate cow, the disciplined duck, the equality elephant, the friendship frog, and the gratitude gorilla. So we have this fun package. It's musical, like it's a show that could be on Nickelodeon. And we started with kids, and now we've grown it to teens with our rock and guitar outreach, where we go in for 10 classes and teach kids how to play guitar. And there's prompts at the end of each class that just get kids thinking, hey, what can you do to chase your own dreams? Maybe music isn't for you, but man, you can use music as a tool to define what it is you want in your life. And that is essentially what Life by Music's about. We put on these events. We donate instruments. We've donated over 500 instruments in Las Vegas. We're in the Clark County School District. So we donated over 500 instruments here in Clark County. And we've done outreach events in San Diego, Long Beach, Salt Lake City, upstate New York, Nashville, Puerto Rico, Grand Junction, Colorado. We're growing slowly but surely, and it's a movement now of, okay, how do we use music education to get it to people who can use music as a tool to empower themselves?
See, you hit the nail on the head with the empower themselves. I look at, which is one of the reasons I'm happy to support your charity, is that I love listening to music. I've never been good at playing it, but I grew up in playing sports, and music and sports, I think, are so important for youth because confidence comes from competence, and competence comes from practice and effort. And you got to be willing to try stuff. And the lesson that I learned in sports growing up was I was willing to suck at something until I sucked less every time. Keep working, suck less until eventually there's some degree of competence in there. And with that competence comes confidence and self-esteem. And you learn about how to adapt and overcome frustration and disappointment. It helps you grow maturity-wise and prepare you for the real world where things aren't easy and you don't win every single time, and you might learn, but you don't win every time. So, and where you get the self-confidence to, whether your sport is in performing in front of a crowd, hey, music's the same way. You get some kid who may be a little bit more shy, maybe isn't athletically inclined, but you know what? He's got a great ear, and he starts playing with something, and all of a sudden he can get an instrument to speak for him. And when he gets that instrument to speak for him, then he feels comfortable, and then he gets to get in front of a crowd, and it's
life-changing. And
that's why I support it. And, we've never talked about this, but this was an experience that I experienced when I was at Rock on the Range, 60,000 people, probably 3 or 4 day music festival. I don't even know how many bands, but it was a great time. And something that stood out to me, you were even talking a little bit about earlier. You talk, oh, this band's doing this or this band's doing that. Maybe we should do what they're doing, and, copying others or strategies or whatever. And what I realized was that a lot of those bands that were performing were some of the folks in the band, they were unique. They were distinct. They were probably not the most popular kids. And some of them might have been, quote, the outcasts, but they didn't conform to what they thought everyone else should be. They doubled down on what made them special, what made them unique. And because they had the courage and the persistence and the fortitude to double and triple and quadruple down on themselves, they did something that was remarkable and amazing. And the fact that there were 60,000 people there paying money to hear them, it was important to me. And what makes that happen? Where does someone get the confidence to be true to who they are and not conform? That music's powerful. And I love what you're doing. And that's why I'm happy to support what you do. And I want to spread the word for what you do. How can people who are listening today support your group?
Yeah, lifebymusic.org. Check out the website. You can see more about everything that we do. We do run on donations, of course. I'm honored to be the executive director of this organization, and, pushing it forward and scaling our outreach. And, we work with veterans also now too. So we have the shoulder to shoulder veterans program. So please reach out to us. We're open, and we love one thing that you were saying. And the word is collaboration. And I was just about to say, we love to collaborate with like-minded individuals and, entrepreneurs and professional people, that there's a connection of supporting the music and the collaboration. You ask how those kids triple down on themselves. It's pretty amazing when you've got 3 of those outcasts in a room together, playing their instruments and collaborating with each other. A fierce power is created. And that power can take the outcast who would usually be on the side, staying out of everybody's sight, right, to being in the spotlight. And that is something extraordinary. And even to the point of, one thing that keeps us going is that no matter how much pressure there is to write a hit single or create the best program to teach, all those professional goals and objectives that we're trying to get to, I still just absolutely love playing the guitar. I can pick the guitar up and it's my glass of wine at night instead. I still find so much solace in playing music and playing guitar. And that's important too. That's just as important for the kid who, you're never going to go towards being a professional musician. But man, when you're thinking about that you're coding that new app, or you're working on your law degree, that you can take 10, 15, 20 minutes away from your day and your stresses and pick up an instrument and feel that vibration. Oh my gosh, man, I cannot recommend that more to anybody. A lot of people just like to listen, and then the listening is your solace, and that's beautiful. But we'd like to take it one step further and say, hey, you can play too. You know what I mean? You can play too.
I love it. So on the otherwise side, where can people go to learn more about your band, where you're playing, what music you got coming out? What's the best way for current or future fans to reconnect, or future fans to connect with you?
Yeah, I would say we're pretty active on our social media accounts, our Instagram and our Facebook. You can reach out to us directly there. So our Instagram is We Are Otherwise. And on Facebook, you just type in the band name, facebook.com/otherwiseofficial. And you check it. Yeah.
Man, I am so thankful for your time and your insights. It's been an incredible conversation. So many parallels between music industry and business and life that I think our listeners can learn from, and I hope they do. And I hope they enjoy listening as much as I enjoyed our conversation. I appreciate you sharing your insights, your stories, and your journey with us. And hopefully we can catch up again soon and maybe get some updates on what's happened with Life by Music and otherwise, if that's all right with you.
I would love that. Mason, thank you for getting me on here. Your questions are inspiring and, right back into it, right back into writing, creating, and pushing forward, having faith in yourself to just keep the music alive, keep rocking. And whatever brand you're in, just keep rocking your brand and be reminded of why you started it to begin with. And hopefully it's not always about the money. It's more so about the art of whatever it is you're doing and whatever it is you're good at. Focus on your artistry in that realm.
Be a professional.
Being professional, man, that balance, if you can balance those two and put the energy into those two, man, you'll be unstoppable. Dude, Mason, thank you for having me on here to just further reaffirm so many things about what we're doing.
It's a pleasure, buddy. Hey, and we'll catch up again soon. Thanks.
Sounds good.